You are watching the video version of the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast. We are so glad that you are here. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can find the Marketing Should Be Fun show on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. But most of all, we're so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Well, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Should Be Fun. My name is Austin Savage. I'm the founder of Savage Content Collective, and I'm here with my good friend, Kelsey Zarko, who is the founder of Curate Social. Kelsey, it's great to be back on the podcast with you, and I have a pop culture question for you.
Ooh, these are always fun. I failed the one that we just talked about before we started recording, so this doesn't bode well for us, but I believe in.
I think you might fail this one too, because I don't think you care about this music artist as much as I do. But new documentary out on Netflix. Okay.
I thought you were going to go like Coachella vibes, and I was like, hold on, I think I'm ready.
Ooh, I have thoughts on that too.
Okay.
But I'm more tuned into Coachella than I've ever been in
I'm really proud of you.
But honestly, it's only because Gigi Perez performed there, and I just love Gigi Perez. And so that's really all.
I thought you were going to out yourself as a Bieber fan just now, but that didn't happen. So
I did watch the clips of some of his performance, but I have not dug deep into the Bieber performance.
We can sideline that for now.
We got to circle back.
Where we were. Okay.
Yeah. Focus. Okay. New documentary out on Netflix, Out of Body, which it follows Noah Khan and his journey through since his last album. And I'm curious if you've watched it or not.
That's the this or that? There's no other option.
No. This
isn't
the this or that. This is just a pop culture question for you.
I was like, oh no, I'm about to have no content for this. Okay, Here is something to know about our family. We have Netflix in November and December for Christmas movies.
No freaking way.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Not because we have any problem with Netflix. I love it all. It's because we have so many streaming services that we had to draw a line somewhere, and we're really in like the Disney, life cycle of our family.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I haven't watched it because I don't have access, but I love his songs. You were the one who introduced him to me.
I remember that actually. That's true.
If we had Netflix, I would watch it. I'm also going to out myself further. This is ridiculous. Can't even believe I'm going to say this out loud. So you know what else is coming in Netflix?
What?
A new little House on the Prairie show.
Stop. And you're seriously considering getting Netflix?
So I told Matt, we might have to get it before November. And he was like,
or a Little House on the Prairie?
I need to screen it to know if they're doing right by our generation. Because
that's crazy.
Listen, I was homeschooled for a while and I grew up on a farm. Okay. Anyway, so if we get it back for a Little House on the Prairie, I'll watch the documentary sooner than November. No one's ever going to listen to me again because I just said that.
So did your kids not watch K-pop Demon Hunters when it was getting super big?
We didn't.
Oh, my mind is being blown right now.
I know. Every now and then I live on the edge of culture, and those are some. You just pulled all the ones out today where I live on the
I like how we've kind of positioned you as somebody who's in tune to pop culture throughout this whole podcast, and here it's oh, actually, no.
Listen,
these two significant moments.
I can sing every K-pop Demon Hunters song. Don't you worry. I just finished reading Theo of Golden, which could be a whole different episode. And every time I opened the book, I would have to sing, gonna be golden. So there's that.
That's fair. Okay, so I do have a this or that for us, which has actually nothing to do with pop culture. We're really making a lot of really big jumps in this episode, but that's okay. This or that, it's actually marketing themed. So, it's a nice, we're easing our way into the actual content of the episode. Okay. I think, I'm curious just more about your experience with this topic in general.
Okay.
Obviously, you and I are both in content marketing. So we're, big fans of inbound marketing, of of generating content that brings leads towards you through value, all of those things. But I am curious about cold outreach, whether it's cold emails, cold contacts, however you're doing it. For you, the this or that is cold outreach, yes or no?
Okay, I'm going to say no.
Tell me why.
You said for me, do you mean, you're going to say all of it. Do you mean me and my bit, like me and Curate's business, or my client's business?
I think for you and Curate's business, like,
okay.
Has it ever worked for you? Kind of is like the...
Yeah, I think my answer to that would be, I just haven't needed to do it yet. And that's a multifaceted answer, because I do think you need to do things before you need them, just so that you can have a runway. My favorite clients are the ones that I have some sort of personal connection with, even if they're strangers and I didn't know them before. Like, I do have some clients where a referral of mine has like given my name to them, then they've reached out. So I prefer when there's a little bit of a somewhat of a connection there. Maybe my answer will change in a year if things are different. There was one time that I thought about doing this. The Lazy Genius, I love her. I talk about her podcast all the time. I get her emails, and she was hiring somebody to manage her Facebook groups and kind of her community. And I was like, oh my gosh, in another life, that would be a really fun dream job. So I almost kind of did like a cold contact. I mean, technically I'm warm to her because I'm on her list, but I thought about it, and then I was like, it doesn't fit for this season of life. So that's my answer. Maybe not what you thought I would say.
Totally fair. Well, I kind of figured, but I was curious if you had any, like recent stories of like, well, actually, I reached out to this company or something. So I was curious about that.
Not yet.
I think generally my answer would be the same. I mean, obviously for both of us, like being in just the agency life and like just service-based businesses, like the amount of clients that we need to kind of like keep our business going is smaller than, like service-based businesses at a lower ticket price or product-based businesses. And so I think that there is just this, like the word of mouth is just so significant for businesses like ours. And every time that I have, tried to do stuff like that, it just like doesn't pay off in the same way that the partnerships do. Even if I have like worked with somebody, through a cold outreach, which has happened a few times over the past 6 years, the partnerships just don't go as deep as the ones that come to us from a recommendation or just through kind of like a natural, partnership or connection or whatever. I will say cold outreach has created some cool opportunities. There was a creator in the Dungeons and Dragons space that I followed for a while that had put out something on his Patreon. And I reached out and was like, hey, if you ever want to like chat marketing. And he was a coaching client for me for like a year.
I remember that. You loved that. That was always very life-giving to you.
Yeah, it was very fun. And just like a random opportunity. Like obviously that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have, just reached out directly. So it's not a hard no, but for me, I'd probably say no as well.
Yeah. It's kind of like we always say content performs on a human level. I feel like sometimes partnerships are the same.
Totally. I love it. What are we talking about today, Kelsey?
I'm so excited. I get to just interview you a little, ask some questions, and I think it's going to be a really fun one. We obviously talk a lot about marketing on this show since, the name of our show is Marketing Should Be Fun. And I think we proved that with our intro today. So check. But I think most of our listeners are also in the entrepreneur space or building some kind of business or brand or organization, however you want to define that. And you have had a lot of experience in this. And honestly, as I was thinking about it this morning, we both kind of have.
Totally.
We've both owned our own businesses, started our own businesses. I even think back to my history in like direct sales for years and just the world
you've done this longer than I have. Thank you very much.
Probably because I'm older than you. But you have started Savage Content in 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah. At the end of 2020.
Yeah. So it's been 6 years. I would love to just have a conversation today about some of what you've learned about navigating the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. You and I have lived through this together.
Oh man.
And so I want to normalize that. First of all, entrepreneurship comes with ups and downs. That is a normal landscape, comes with the territory. You're not doing it wrong if you're experiencing that. And then just get to share some of your wisdom, learned experiences, all of that as you navigated those.
Yeah. Well, I recently posted about how I started an antidepressant. And so if you really want to know how I've navigated the ups and downs, that's how. I think
there's some real in that.
I remember you messaged me afterwards and you said, I wish I could have experienced Austin on this when,
hey,
you were my employer.
I was here for it. I want you to just respond first of all to the kind of that whole topic, which is like whatever comes to mind. Yeah. And then I do have some specific pointed questions later, but I want you to just share what's on your mind first.
Yes. Joking aside, I mean, you and I have like navigated a lot of that together over the years. And that is like such a real thing. And I know like in the business spaces, like it is kind of a joke where it's like, oh, one day I want to burn down my business and like, sell it all and just be done. And then the next day it's like, oh my gosh, this is the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done in my entire life. I love it so much.
So true.
And then, I mean, that is very real. And it isn't even always like due to performance. Like, sometimes it's just like, yeah, right now, like I find the work that I'm doing really draining, or right now I'm finding it fulfilling, or, yes, like this is really stressful. I feel like I'm constantly having to search for new business or like, fight for growth or whatever, in comparison to seasons that feel very natural and very just like, yeah, like you're growing on your own. And I think, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint like how I've navigated those seasons specifically. But I think as I think about my just journey as an entrepreneur, lately I've been thinking about this a lot, is like kindness and patience as an entrepreneur. Like I truly just keep coming back to like, that is so significant. And recently, like we have a lot of longstanding client partnerships, and we also have a lot of new team members that have joined our team in the past year. And I feel like I've been doing a lot of work to like showcase for our team, like the significance, not just of performance, for maintaining client partnerships and like building trust and like just being people that our clients want to keep working with and want to recommend. Like so often it has so much more to do with what their experience was or is working with us and like how they think of us as people. And that's not true in every case, but like oftentimes like that is going to earn us a longer partnership than the granular performance of like, have we hit this metric? What is this channel doing? And we want to do both. But I think like, especially on the kindness side of what I just said, I mean, that just is such a superpower in entrepreneurship, like that anybody can do, like it's just like being, for me, like I view it as strategic, but like I'm often, like at the start of meetings, like, I'm asking people about their kids and their favorite Nintendo 64 video game or, whatever. And, it's silly. It has nothing to do with marketing, but like, I'm trying to communicate, like, I care about you as a person. And, like, I want that to be a core part of our partnership. And that's earned me a lot of, I think, trust and respect and just kind of like those long-term partnerships. But I think on the same side, I mean, patience is such a big thing that I have leaned into since the start of my entrepreneurship journey, because I think of even right now, like our sales cycles typically aren't that long. Like usually they're, 1 to 3 months maybe for landing a client. But our largest client that we've now worked with for a couple of years, it took me a year, maybe a year and a half to finally close them. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, there was like 6 months of silence in there. There's like the back and forth. There's the, kind of like the discouragement of like, oh my gosh, I spent so much time on this proposal, like all of those kinds of things. And I think just trusting the process of building a brand, and like that is a big part of weathering the seasons of entrepreneurship, because there is like this guarantee in my mind that, what you're putting out into the world is going to come back to you in some way. And like, we don't always have to force the timing of those things. And, I think like in that case for that client specifically, I mean, that led to, a great partnership that was at a better season for them, like a better time for them to say yes and then to commit to it for a long time. And similarly, I mean, like we've had clients walk away and then come back 3 months later because they're like, hey, we tried something else. It didn't work. They weren't as fun to work with as you guys, or like they didn't understand us as well as you guys. And I mean, that's patience as well. It's like, I don't have to force you to think something. Like I know the value that we've brought to you. I understand where you're at, maybe as just a person, like curious if there's other opportunities that make more sense. But like, I'm going to trust that like what I have given to your brand is going to pay off, whether it's you coming back, you giving a recommendation, those kinds of things. And so I don't know if that answers your question directly, but those are two things that I've been thinking about a lot recently.
Yeah, it answers it perfectly. I loved your point about trusting the process. I think that is just something that is, you gain that by just staying in the game. Like you don't learn to trust the process by giving up or by like panicking and pivoting all the time. And so even just to hear someone who's listening hear you say like, I've been doing this for 6 years and I have learned to trust the process, to not force it. And so if you're newer in your journey and you're listening, you can borrow some of that experience from us of like, no, totally. Stay in it, trust the process. Of course, there's pivots and tweaks and things like that, but just kind of that whole feeling of like, I've got to burn it all down and start over. No, you might just need to like walk away and go for a walk. And in that same vein, when you were talking about kindness and patience, I think just from working with you for years that you've also learned a lot about showing patience and kindness to yourself. So I would love to hear you talk a little bit about ways you talked about. It is just a normal rhythm that some days we feel really drained and some days we feel really excited, and you don't always have a lot of control over that.
Totally.
How have you learned to, what have you done or learned to do in those seasons where you feel more drained or you kind of just don't have the immediate motivation? How do you show kindness and patience to yourself? How do you get re-inspired? Anything on that topic?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Hit me in the heart, why don't you? Jeez,
I think
Louise.
You'll be great at answering this.
I think that is very true. I have always, I don't know that like negative self-talk in that sense has been like a core part of like my journey as an entrepreneur, though I think it's very common for most, you know, like just getting to that place of like, oh my gosh, I'm no good at this. Like this is too hard. A good entrepreneur wouldn't feel the way that I'm feeling about my business. Those kinds of things. I don't know that specifically has been like my challenge with that, but I do think like my journey in entrepreneurship has definitely not been without mistakes. And I think that's where I get on myself is like, I should have seen this coming. Like, 3 months down the line when this client said this, I should have taken it more seriously, or I should have pivoted and like, moved around like how our team was supporting them. The same thing for my team. Like, I think that there's times where we haven't had like any major team issues, honestly, in the last 6 years, but just times where it's like, I wish I would have seen like this challenge for this team member earlier and, just like approached their role on our team differently. And I'm learning that kind of like just in the moment right now because our team here at Savage Content is bigger than it's ever been. Every person just needs something so different from you as a leader and wants something very different from you as a leader. And like, even just like the involvement that's required of me for, different team members is just different. And I think like I have been learning a lot recently of like being okay with, I should have approached it differently from the start with this person. And, I'm just going to make that change moving forward. And, I'm going to like try to communicate more openly, those kinds of things. So I mean, I think that is a part of it. Like it has to be like patience for yourself and patience with yourself, because like you literally cannot grow if you don't make mistakes, or if you don't like, just even if it's just an experience that you're like, I don't actually want to experience that again, and it might not even be from a mistake that you made, but just something that you learn of like, I don't want to work with that kind of client again, or I don't want to, whatever it is. And I think that is something to be open to, like not something to fear. Yeah, I think that fits in the category of patience with myself, but it's definitely a journey,
I think that you just kind of brought up a whole new topic that's so helpful for entrepreneurs to remember with the ups and downs of there's so many things, the times where you have that moment where you like still think about something and you like cringe because you're like, oh, that was so bad, or like, oh, that was such a rough situation. I have those for sure. And I would say almost all of those now, a year, 2 years later, and as I'm in this season of growing my own business, have very intentionally informed the types of clients I take, the way I respond in situations, all of those things. And so one of my questions for you, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, and I'm curious what you say, don't be nervous, is I think this is real. And I could give you so many examples of my own too, but is there a scenario you can share vaguely, obviously, that you would go back and choose differently on, and kind of what have you learned from that?
That is a hard question. Truly a hard question. I mean, I'm proud to say that I think that most of the decisions that I've made, I feel like I would make again if I started over. I have learned a lot each year of business, and like every year has taken something different, I think, of me as a leader, and that's been very exciting and very fulfilling. Mm-hmm. I think now, like honestly, the most genuine answer to that question would be paying more attention to red flags that I notice from clients in advance. And it's not common, but we have had multiple partnerships that, you know, have been not healthy, I guess, from the client's end. You know, even like if it's like having to chase down payments, you know, or if it's just someone who really wasn't ready to invest in an agency. I think more for me, like I have just learned, like I wish that I would have paid more attention to those things, because for our team, we ended up giving way more time to the sales process, to the initial deliverables, to like, you know, all of these things that, you know, we're fine. And like we moved past it and like it got solved. And like, you know, there's multiple sort of scenarios in my mind, I guess, about that. But I think that there is kind of like an intuition about those things that I have developed more strongly now than I had before. And I think that there is part of me that wishes that I had a stronger intuition about the challenges that could come with client partnerships, because I am a very trusting person in general. And I'm also like a hardcore optimist. And so like my full belief is like everything's going to work out fine. And I can make, you know, everything fine, which is true, by the way. Like I do have the ability to navigate any situation, and all of us do. I was just
going to agree. I do think that's a superpower of yours. Like that's not a bad thing.
I think paying more attention to, you know, the like clients who take forever to respond. It's like, that's actually like, that's what it's going to be like to work with them, you know, or just like things like that can just create challenges in the long run. So that's a vague answer, but that's what comes to mind.
Yeah.
What about for you?
I think that's a very real answer. And I think it connects right back to what you were saying about trusting the process, you know, scarcity mindset, all of that, of a lot of those red flags we said yes to over and over again at the beginning, because you're like, I'm going to take whatever comes my way.
Totally.
And as you just become more settled and grounded as a leader and understanding where you want your company to go, I think you just gain confidence in knowing like it isn't worth me saying yes to that just because I feel like I need the client or the number or whatever it is. It has always been us if we've just, you know, tried to like make it work. So I would agree with that. I think the ones that come to mind for me have a lot to do with reaction and pace. On a granular level, for me, there are times, and I learned this working for you, where client communication can be tricky and can feel like very, not combative isn't the right word, but like it can feel intense. And I have learned like I don't have to level up to the intensity. Like I can just walk away for a minute. And if I answer calmly in 10 minutes or 12 hours, like I'm probably just going to save myself a lot of just, you know, ways that weird dynamics can happen, or someone getting frustrated or upset, or just like that little, everybody knows I'm talking about that, just a little bit of uncomfortableness that's like in the conversation. So I've learned not to bring my stress into my answers and my reactions to clients.
Totally.
Huge one for me. And then even the pace and reaction of, I am just a more cautious person. This isn't a right or wrong thing for somebody in general, but it's a right or wrong thing for me. I was super slow to hire because I was so cautious of just the ways I value stability and the income I needed for my family and all of that. And so even working with a business coach who kind of helped me navigate, like, here's what this looks like on paper if you hire this person at this rate for this many hours or whatever it is. I just learned that former Kelsey would have like been like, fill the hole, fill the need, you know, we got to do this right away. And it was like, actually, I'm fine. I can take a week and really analyze this and make a wise decision for my company. And so that's just a change I've seen work for the better for me personally.
Yeah. Did you learn that at Savage Content too? Because we hired really fast a bunch
I don't
of times.
think that was a bad thing. You were doing that because I was like, I'm on fire. Help me. And you were like, here's a person. Here's a person.
Yeah.
But
that is a difference between us though. Like I think that I'm much quicker to act in those things. And I don't think either are necessarily, like a negative or a positive.
Totally.
But that makes a lot of sense. I think that those things, I think both of us would kind of say like we have made decisions in the past, like where we would have approached it differently with like what we know now. But I think it does like let you stand up for your boundaries, like as a leader and as a business owner. And I know for me, like, those things that I mentioned that I've learned about client partnerships, like it lets me stick up for my team a little bit better too, where like if I see, hey, like this client is, kind of communicating in a way that's like maybe not unhealthy, but just like is really unhelpful to our team. Like, it's like, that's actually something we want to address and not just like assume, it's going to work out, which past version of me totally would have been like, it's fine. We'll accommodate anything. But it's like, we can educate the client and, help them see like, here's a better path forward. Or, like if a client communicates way too harshly with our team, like that's an opportunity to step in and say like, hey, you're not going to talk to us like that. And like, here's why, but we still would like to work with you. Like, here's some, again, education on those things. And, I think that has been positive aspects of doing it wrong in the past.
Yeah. You kind of have to like learn in the school of hard knocks in some ways. So that's fair. Okay. Well, let's imagine that there is someone listening who is in one of the downs of the ups and downs journey. Yeah. What would you just want to tell them? What would you want to hear in some of your seasons of the downs, of the ups and the downs, and how would you encourage them today?
I was just talking to a college class the other day, and every time I get to do this quite a bit, and I don't know why, but it just has happened. Every time I end those classes telling the class that each of them has value to bring to this world and has unique gifts, talents, that are special, like that are not, just general, but they're like unique and valuable and special. And I truly, I would say the same thing to every person listening is like, I think recognizing the fact that even in a hard season, like you are an incredibly unique and talented person. And like the approach that you have to whatever it is that you're doing or that you care about or that you want to be doing, you have value to bring to that space. You don't have to pre-program this idea of like what the journey has to look like. The hard truth of every down is like you have to address the situation that you're in. You can't pretend that you're not in a challenging season. And that's how businesses close. But you still can recognize the value that you have to bring as a leader and as an innovator and an entrepreneur or a nonprofit leader. I mean, whatever it is, we've talked about it here on the podcast quite a bit, but consistently, especially in initial conversations that we have with clients, like discouragement about oneself, I think is just such a common thing that keeps people from moving forward or doing kind of like actually taking a step towards like what they want their business to be, or, like how they want to shift like their, who they're marketing to or who they're, creating for or whatever. And I think like that is the biggest gap to address in your leadership. And like that starts, I think, most meaningfully in the hard seasons where you're like, do I actually believe that I can do this? The answer has to be yes. Like you have to understand that like you have value to bring to that space, and it's the truth. Like it's not just like some like, I'm gonna tell myself this so that I feel encouraged. Like it literally is the truth that you have unique value to bring to this world, and the world is better when you lean into that unique value that you have to bring. And that is what I would like to leave every person with.
So good. I literally don't know that we could say anything else more meaningful. So that feels like a great place to wrap it up. I love that you brought that up too, because I think that it's real that our business ideas and brands and what we're trying to bring to the world, it should feel vulnerable because that means you're hitting on the magic that you bring to it and those unique ways that you are skilled and purposed for what you have. I think the unique hard part it always will be is separating your identity from the results of what you're doing. And
100%.
That's just always going to be a unique journey of, I mean, so many things you and I have even talked about, like counseling and even what you said about like medication, like anything that takes care of you is going to take care of your business too, because those two are so interrelated. So yeah, I loved what you shared. I hope that if you're listening, you'll kind of pause, scroll back and listen to that a few more times before you go on with your day to day, because it is all very true and very real. And we hope that this was encouraging for you and that just keeps you going in the right direction on the long haul of whatever it is that you're bringing to life in this world. And we will catch you right back here next time on Marketing Should Be Fun.